Hey, it's Karina Reichman, and you are listening to Comes a Time with Oteil Burbridge and Mike Fenoya. If you're digging the podcast, do these guys a favor and review and subscribe. It means a lot. Be sure to follow the pod on social media, YouTube, and if you're joining for bonus episodes and exclusive content, go to patreon.com/comesatimepod and get on the bus. And now, here's Mike and Oteil.
What's up, good people? All you miracles out there. Today is one of my favorites. I have the Reverend Jeff Mosier on. He was a bandmate of mine. Those of you on the jam band scene will know him. He played in, I think it was even before it was called the Aquarium Rescue Unit. I think Bruce was changing the name once a week. We were the Arkansas this and the Arkansas that. And I lived with Jeff in 1988. And he's really the one that taught me about bluegrass music. I was playing it with the Colonel, but I didn't really know what it was. And through my time living with him, he's the one that taught me that banjo comes from Africa. And the whole history of it, and he would play me the records and tell me the story. So I really learned about the whole culture and the people, and not just studying the music kind of like scientifically or whatever. And I got to meet a lot of really cool people through him. He was the one that first told me about Newgrass Revival, who were these basically like bluegrass subversives. They were like the Black Panthers of the bluegrass. It pissed a lot of people off because they might do like a reggae groove or whatever. It's like it was not like Earl, in bluegrass. You got to do it like Earl. And Bela Fleck was in that band with John Cowan and Sam Bush, and who I later met. But Bela Fleck was playing with some old friends of mine named Victor and Roy Wooten, which was a brand new thing at that time. They were starting to take the world by storm. This is 88. And so right away, the connection started. I was like, oh, wow. My old friends from when I was like 19 years old from Virginia Beach are playing with this cat, Bela Fleck. So it was just, another one of those coincidences, if you believe in that sort of thing. Well, he ended up playing with Colonel Bruce Hampton. Maybe it was the Aquarium Rescue Unit by then. I can't remember if that was the title at that point. And then later on, or maybe probably before that, he was playing with Peter Rowan and Vassar Clements. He said he just played with Peter Rowan the other night, who, like our Deadhead fans will know from Old and in the Way. He also played with Leftover Salmon, Widespread Panic, Fish. He actually, if I'm not mistaken, like taught Fish about bluegrass the way he kind of taught me about it, although they didn't live with him. But it was more than just like, it was a pretty intensive thing. And so he's been out there on the jam band scene. His thing was called Blue Ground Undergrass back then. Yeah, he's the reason I wanted to have him on is because we both know a lot about theology. And when I understood some of these theological things about Bruce's philosophy before I knew more about theology. And now that I know more about it, like, me and Jeff's discussions got so much deeper. And we really didn't actually get to a lot of it on this podcast because, we're going back to like 1988. There's just a lot of tangents. And I believe, like Yorma Kalkinen said, that life is in the tangent. So I'm cool. I got cards and I would write stuff down to make sure we got back on track, but I just let us take all the tributaries and byways. And it's just one of my favorite podcasts, man. This guy's just amazing. I'm so glad we're both still alive and both able to explain to people about how profound this experience was for us, and how profoundly it changed us forever. And I think that both of our levels of gratitude right now are proof that that was the real deal, because I know for a fact we're both so much more grateful than we've ever been in our lives right now. And he's got a beautiful spirit. He was severely wounded by the church, and Bruce helped him sort out his wounds and not lose his spirituality, which is truly the same thing he did for me. I just wasn't wounded by the church. So this is I always say this, but it's probably going to be, I would say it's in my top 3 favorite podcasts, and I hope you guys really enjoy it. And we're going to have to do another one too, because we just didn't get to everything. We only had an hour and he had to go. But I hope you enjoyed this. Catch us on all the different platforms where you get your podcasts. We also have our own YouTube page. And come check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/Comes a Time Pod, where you get extras when we go way over. We put the extras on Patreon. Love you much. Peace and love. Enjoy. Thanks, man. Reverend, we do all of our intros after the fact.
Sure.
So we just jump in.
Jump right in. Okay.
How are you doing today?
Doing great today. Yeah. Doing great. Very grateful.
Me too, man. I think that's my question always is, how are you doing right now? That's right all we got. So let's figure out.
That's all we got right now.
No kidding,
that's
man.
A hard one to learn. That's a hard one.
I think once you have a scrape with your own mortality, or if someone close to you dies,
yeah,
or someone close to someone that's close to you dies, then all of a sudden you're like, hey, you know, exactly. And then you get to my point where at my age, so many people that are dying are younger than me. And I'm like,
it's unreal.
Yeah, at steady stream. But I'm glad to be here with you, man. I got to tell you, I don't want to talk just about the Colonel. I did, you know.
Yeah, of course. I knew you would, so I didn't. Mine was dirty from the weekend. I just got back from Swanee, which is one of his favorite places, you know.
That's one of my favorite places. And shout out to Beth, Judy, and the whole team.
She's amazing. She knows how to stay out of the way, you know, which is amazing. She just moves in and around it all, and lets it all happen.
She also, what is the name of the festival now? Swanee Roots Meet? What is it?
It's called Swanee Spring Reunion in the spring, and then it's called Swanee Roots Revival in the fall now.
Okay. Yeah. Because it was Magnolia Fest.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's always what I remember the most. And she does have that quality, but at the same time, where she's out of the way, she's always right there. Like when you need something, it's like boom. And you're like, right. Even if she's not physically there, someone that she's like,
it's amazing.
It's because she cares.
She does. She really does care, in a controlling, caring way. It's about the music and how it vibes and everything. You know,
it's funny because
everything. She thinks about everything.
You bring up something there that I is a recurring theme in my life, and I think will become a recurring theme in this podcast, which is benevolent dictatorship. benevolent dictatorship, I really think is the way. But finding the benevolent dictator, that's all.
It's such an oxymoron, but it works if it can be. I think it can work.
Oh, it has.
A real
many
dictator
times.
takes responsibility. That's the key, is stewardship. It's not just control, but stewardship. And that's what we've been given.
That's
we
what
don't
America's
do it very
not doing.
much.
Right. And see, this is why I wanted to talk about the theology of Colonel Bruce Hampton, because this is right there. You just hit one of the crucial. There may be only like 3 that you need to deal with.
Yeah.
And I don't know the number, but stewardship is one of them. And
Right.
so when we get this idea about we're supposed to rule over the land, it's like, that's not what God
No.
said. No. He said you get to name everything. Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't make it though.
They'd name themselves. They would name themselves if they could. The squirrels would. They just couldn't. So
Well, you know what? I think they have. We
maybe
just don't
they have.
understand it.
Exactly.
We don't speak their language.
They might have everything named and all that.
Or they realize they don't need them. They're like, look at me. Everybody knows what I am. The ones that want to eat me and the ones that don't, you know what I mean? Like, we all know. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going after them nuts.
I'm going to be a squirrel.
I'm going to be squirreling 24/7. But yeah, that concept of stewardship, that's what it really was saying. And it says it over and over again. So, but I'm one of these people that sees everything connected. And so, but to jump for a second, I gotta just give you credit, because I've watched Bruce's movie and I've watched interviews with him, and I've done and been at many, many interviews with him. And yours is my favorite. I can't say what's the best and what ain't, but because you were in the band and because you got it so much. When you ask him a question, and his response is like the conversation as a person that had been in the band and I think got it. I was just like, yes. Like, I gotta shut up. Why is like, why are you screaming? But she's always right. Let's just say that. But I really enjoyed it, and that's when I was like, I gotta get you on right now.
Thank you, man.
To talk about. So I don't want to waste any more time with. First of all, let's go back to when we lived together, because it was right after it clicked for me. It wasn't long after that you came into the picture, and we ended up living together. And I'll never forget you telling me, you were like, you should be playing this instrument. I was like, why should I be playing this instrument? And you were like, you're people, Black people. And I was like, wow, now you're really losing me. I was like, okay. And that's when I learned that banjo comes from Africa. Right. I guess it was originally the Ngoni or the Sinti or whatever the names are. But and that picture, I gotta find it, because I think it's on my Instagram.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it.
You took that picture.
Yeah, I did.
Right? Yeah.
One of those little cheapy cameras you got at the drugstore.
Yep. And now I'm going back to Iceland and doing that thing. So that was so pivotal for me, because I did not really understand the bluegrass portion. Oh, let me do not disturb this thing. Y'all, stop. My fault. Focus. Do not disturb. All right. It's just like my kids. I didn't really know about the bluegrass piece of things. My dad had records by Bill Monroe and Earl Scruggs. Mm-hmm. But it was always, jazz was up here. Everything else was right. It's just the way it was. And man, when the Osborne brothers, and what's that album with the guy sitting in The bin right outside the coal mine, just covered with coal dust.
Curly Ray Klein.
Curly.
You got to do a song, Curly Ray Klein.
Man, I gotta cover him. And so you had that radio show, Born in a Barn.
Yeah, Born in a Barn with my brother. Yeah.
And you brought live cats on
I
to
brought
play
live.
sometimes.
Yeah, it was started in '84, and we brought in people that. But then the biggest weird thing that we had developed this cult following was called the Phone Festival, where we would open up the phone. And back then there wasn't a 7-second delay, so we'd put it on speakerphone, and people would call in and jam over the phone with us, and it was called the Phone Festival.
So below.
And then some people go, I pulled up here to a phone booth. Hold on a second, let me get it in my truck. And then they finally get the they'd get the
That
phone.
mandolin up to the phone.
They'd hold it up. We would just jam along. Hold on, I got to turn my radio up. I can't quite hear you and Johnny. And then and it started. And then there were just people that would tune in just for that 1.5 hour. And it was insane.
I would not miss that. And that's the beautiful thing that I was supposed to learn about Bruce is like, it's not the music. It's almost like looking at music like a scientist. It's like, what do you think we're up here doing, math? That's not what's happening.
No.
You know, it's not.
No.
It is geometry and it is math and it is, but
we are splitting intervals and hertz and all that stuff. You know, we are doing that, but it's like a medicine we made for ourselves.
Absolutely.
It is, and it's a healing force in the universe. I really believe that.
Oh, absolutely, because it's infused with our intention. And this is what I always get back to with the materialists. I was like, you just need one miracle to keep your whole bullshit dogma up. And that one miracle is your consciousness. So when they go, well, it can't be measured. I can't have empirical proof. None of this anecdotal shit, you know, and I'm be like, do you love your mom? Right? If you say they had a good mom, pick whoever, do you love them? It's like, okay,
is there a mom you've ever loved?
Yeah. Can you prove that love exists? And I need empirical proof, not this anecdotal shit.
Right.
Oh, I've done all these things for my eyes, anecdotal. I want to see it measured. So the one miracle is the thing doing the measuring you can't measure. It's your consciousness. Right. So stop it. Just stop. It's not math. It's our intention, which can heal and also do other things.
It changes things when we do focus it. It changes things. Right when you focus there, it changes.
And that subtle thing.
That thing.
What is that? That's what Colonel Bruce taught me. And what it is, it's like what we are. So one of the first revelations that I had about bluegrass and what the music really is the people. So when I see the guy in the coal mine, I'm like, hey, those people had it as rough, some maybe rougher than the ghetto. There was like a McDonald's on every corner in the ghetto. Like, you know, it was
right.
That was some rough stuff, man, and still is.
Yeah.
I remember one of the bluegrass cats, I don't know if it was an interview or if you told me or if it was Vestal or somebody or Autry, or like they said, people got mad. Oh, maybe it was High Lonesome. They say people got mad at us for playing bluegrass because they said we were trying to get out of work, get out of going to the coal mine. I was like, well, hell yeah, I'm trying to get out of coal.
Wow.
Yeah. So then I was like, all right, now I hear that in the music.
Yeah.
I hear the coal mine.
Right.
I hear all the good and bad. And
they're playing it for their buddies who couldn't play music. And so the songs really touched the people that were still in the coal mine.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to be like, hey, we're out of the coal mine. You know. They wanted to like go back and touch the hearts of the people that they grew up with, and which is the true heart of folk music and bluegrass. That's why those tunes they're so real.
Yeah.
They're not written as product.
No, they're
for a record company. They're not. They're just right out of the diary of those people. Their
that's
personal life. Yeah.
it's a diary. Yes, because they're also trying to heal themselves like we are.
Yeah.
You know, I'm hurting. I go to the bass, the piano, the drums, the banjo, uh, and I play it out. And then it helps other people. That's what the magic is.
Right.
When I get my pain moving, if I do it in front of people, it moves their pain, and we all like, and then we have magic going. Because if it gets
Exactly.
stuck, you know what happens.
Right. And they watch people cooperate with one another and get things done in a thing that we called a show. But the show is all of us yielding our ears one to another in the hopes of becoming bigger than the sum total of our parts, which just sounds like a cute thing, but it's really a powerful thing that
Everything.
apparently government and a lot of people have not figured out. And that's where I love being a musician and playing, especially improvising, because improvising is getting out on the diving board.
Yeah.
It
With a
is.
bunch of other people.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this concept of the show because you just sparked a great, thank you for that thought seed. The show becomes binary where it's, oh, this is just a show, which means it's bullshit,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, but what it is we're showing you.
Right.
Yeah, that's what stories all do. They
Yeah, it's just like
show.
this,
Yeah, they see,
like showing a little kid a bird for the first time. You know,
and then
your daughter or whatever, son.
yeah, and now that you've seen it, then you can turn and go, "Hey, check this out," and you show someone else, and now we all can do it, right? But then when it's a show, there's this thing like I can do it and you can't do it,
Right.
right?
Right.
So there's like three things because part of it is like it's fake, it's all for show. Oh, it's just a
Right.
show. You know, it's like
Well, I do this workshop. I've done it. This weekend was my 25th time doing, or 50th time doing it, I guess.
nice.
And all I do is I sit up there with a banjo and I say, you spend all this time and energy going to hear music. You spend all this money on music, and y'all are really hardcore black belt listeners. I've seen you for years all over the place. Why don't you learn to play a
Why don't you
musical
try
instrument?
it?
The
Try
only
it.
difference between me and you is that I learned to play a musical instrument. It doesn't make me better. And then when you do learn that, you'll come to the show and you'll finally be that person in the audience that goes, you'll be one of the people that can look up there and go, that's what I do. And then you'll have your own healing process, whether you're ever in a band, get out, make it, whatever making it is. The bottom line
Oh,
is we need
oh,
more people with their hands in the process. We would be such a
yeah.
more civilized species if more people were really touching instruments and playing instruments.
Well, they
And
took
that's
it out of the
why,
schools on purpose.
yeah,
They
oh
knew it
yeah,
was going to tank
yeah.
things. They knew.
They knew they
Because
that's why
I remember
my
asking Ivan
religion
Neville.
controlled it for years. You only get 3 notes, trichord.
Yeah, but
And
they
then they
still
started
did it.
divvying out
They still did
they
it.
did
They didn't
pay
just
for
like
it.
eliminate the
They did pay
altogether.
for it. Yeah, they did. They paid for it and funded it for hundreds of years.
Yeah,
But
because
I mean, it was a powerful deal, you know.
no, for sure. I remember asking Ivan Neville one time because you know how New Orleans, you just have these places where it's like, is everybody the baddest musician in the world? Like Cuba just has
Right.
it's a disproportionate number of insanely good musicians.
Yeah.
Period. I don't get if you don't realize that, it's because you didn't do your homework.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I asked Ivan, I was like, is there just something in the water here? And he goes, well, yeah, it is out there. It's a legacy. But it was in the schools. And I remember, you remember, there's this guy when we toured with was after you were this was Peacemakers actually. We toured with Bruce Hornsby and the bassist with his band Giovanni Collier. Great bassist, great guy. He we're talking bass and all this stuff, and I go, "Where are you from?" He's like, "I'm from Detroit." And I was like, "Wow." And somewhere down the conversation he said, "I got one of James Jamerson's B-15s." I was like, "What? How did you get that?" He goes, "He was my teacher in high school." I was like,
Man.
it was just a high school band teacher, James friggin' Jamerson, and gave him one. Another good story about that. He was telling me, I was like, dude, he's a little guy. He's just ripped. I was like, how are you? You're just ripped, dude. Like, he's like, yeah, I used to get bullied by this guy in high school all the time. He took my lunch money every day. God. And I just said, that's it. I'm not going to be. He goes, his name was John Rico. And I was like,
No. You're kidding? Wow.
yeah, Enrico Scott.
God. Oh, wow.
And so I called you, Enrico. I was like, yo, dude, why did you bully? Because I said, Enrico Scott, he was like, he he's seen a ghost, right? So long afterwards. He's like, Enrico Scott? I was like, dude, him and my brother are like this.
Right, exactly.
They might have even been playing with Derek at the same time there.
Right.
So I was like, dude, why were you so mean? He goes, oh, I feel real bad about that, man. It haunted him.
Those were bad times.
Detroit back in the day.
I can just hear him. I miss him so much. And your brother, man. It's just, I don't know. It's been, like you said, it feels like we're waiting on our luggage at the airport and just bodies just come by,
Oh, man.
Oh, there another few days, there's another body. And it's just, it's like Tommy Talton. I just went to his. I just went to his.
The very first session that I did to actually like leave and go do a studio session. So maybe Nashville was the first from your house with Craig Cramp, but after I moved to Birmingham was with Johnny Sandlin, and it was with Tommy Talton and Scott Boyer.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, I had no idea about the Allman Brothers and Dwayne and Muscle Shoals and Fame. And I was in Decatur, Alabama, scared for my life.
Yeah.
And here comes Johnny Sandlin and Tommy Talton and Scott Boyer. And when I saw he just died, I was like, wow, so many moons ago.
He was the complete package. Sing, play,
songwriter,
entertain, everything,
slide.
Right? Everything. He was just, and then nice. Most people have all that other, can't really pull nice off. And he did. He really did. It was just, he was like a true brother, man. I really loved him.
First time I heard him play slide, I was like, oh, okay. All right. That's why Tommy Talton. Because I didn't get the songwriting and the lyric, and man, those tunes we covered with the brothers, like Please Be With Me and All My Friends, and just timeless, make you cry. If you don't cry at that stuff, something's missing.
Something's missing. Yeah, really.
Well, I do want to get to some, let me go back to me living with you. Okay. And when you met, tell people what it was like for you when you first saw Colonel Bruce, and how did it even happen? Like, what brought you?
Well, I went to a show at the Point to see a guy named David Olney, who was a singer-songwriter, legendary. My friend Elise Witt said, you'd really like this guy. And so I go in, and he was great, but he took a break. So I went out on the sidewalk, and I heard this noise that was just sounded like, I don't know. It sounded like children's music from another planet.
That's
And
exactly what it
and
is.
right in the middle of it was what I thought sounded like a mandolin. So I go, and there's Bruce, and he's standing up there playing this thing
The jazz away.
that I didn't understand what it was. So they took a break. Of course, I never went back to David Aldi. I was so ADD AF, you know. I still am.
Me
I'm
too.
like,
Hey, it's a superpower
what?
too.
It is. But I was just like, wow, they took a break, and he comes, off the stage, and I finally went up to him, and I said, man, is that a mandolin? He goes, yes, it is, kind of. And I said, that was a Dave Evans tune you were doing. Yes. Yes. I heard it on your radio show.
Ooh.
And I was like,
there you go. He gets you right away.
no, it was really like one of those things they kill cows with, that giant bolt.
Dude, I remember when that moment was for me.
And I said, oh, well, I appreciate it. He goes, I love Dave Evans. Me and a painter friend of mine. Listen, and of course he's talking about Holbrook, because Holbrook would paint at that time, and Bruce would go over and hang out, and they'd play our show on a little radio. So, anyways, he goes, bring your banjo sometime. I was like, what? Bring my to this? And so I thought about it, and I thought, well,
I thought about it.
So I went down to Buckhead.
But see, wait a minute, I gotta stop you right there.
If I hadn't stopped to think about it.
That's the difference between everybody that knows and doesn't know or will never know. It's just this curiosity. There's a little piece. That's why I stopped trying with a lot of people.
I know they just don't have the
curiosity. But it got in. You were like, I thought about it, and I was like, and that's where
I guess I'll need a pickup. And so I thought I'll learn. Bela probably knows. So I mean, Bela wasn't that. I mean, they were just Newgrass Revival back then. So I asked, and he had a Jones pickup, so I got a Jones pickup. He had this certain kind of preamp, so I got it. At that time, I bought a Passac. But the guy in Buckhead said, "Well, what kind of music you going to be playing on this thing?" I said, "Well, I don't really know. I heard a little bit of it." And so finally, I ended up sitting in somewhere after I saw Sipe at BC Fest, and Johnny and I gave him a ride. He told us all about Bruce in the car. And so somehow I ended up in it. And honestly, I was just like the sheltered, recovering Southern Baptist, like a recovering, I was just shocked.
Yeah.
And as Bruce said, in a few days after I met him, "You're suffering from a premature and dangerous rise to consciousness."
Yeah.
And you know what? It was the most empathic thing he ever said. And from that point on, pretty much if he talked, I recorded it in my head.
Yeah, me too.
Because for some reason, he was a teacher I never had, kind of a dad I'd never had. It's hard to learn to play music and take it serious in a storm of disapproval. And that's a lot of musicians have to learn in a storm of disapproval. And of course, the church doesn't fancy anything outside the walls, musically speaking, a lot of times. At least the white church doesn't. So
the black church too now.
Yeah.
They got pissed at Ray Charles and a lot of them.
Yeah, I'm sure. So anyway, I'm just saying that 1.5, 2 year, 18, ever how long I was in it officially, I've never counted, but it was a couple of years. It changed my life, and I was like the Pete Best, I was in it before it really got signed and solidified, but those years we would get up there for 3 hours and never talk about what we were going to do. And it was like there was no time.
Yeah, there was no time.
I've in Knoxville especially.
And nowhere and no time. Nowhere is now here. That
It
thing
was
hit me so
just
hard the other day. I've heard it 100,000 million times. And for
me
some
too.
reason, just the other day, it was that thing that kills the cow. And I was like, and it's not that I didn't get it before,
I know.
but
It's just
yeah,
layers of things that I learned.
Zambi in it, and they accidentally put one decimal point number off, and he did
Right.
way too many G's, and it like did something to him. It made him essentially like a godhead, and I'm like, they were gonna have a theme park named. I was like, what is he talking about? And
Right.
so I thought about it like you did.
Mhm.
And I'm just laying in bed because I know something's going on. And I'm just trying to wrap my head around maybe just one corner of it. And then it comes to my mind. I was like, Chauncey Gardner. And I honestly think it was a thought from above. I don't think it was like reductive or deductive where I put it together. I was just like, oh, wait a minute. And I called Bruce and I said, hey, man, I think that I did a movie about this whole Zambi concept. So if we could, before I tell the story, remind me to tell the story again. But can you explain to the audience Joseph Zambi, who I will say is a real person? In
Yeah.
fact, I'm going to pull his picture up because now I have it. Can you explain what the whole Zambi thing, like what it meant to you when you were told about it?
Yeah, I can. Bruce took me out after we ate at this place called the American Roadhouse.
The American Roadhouse.
He said, stand right over there. This was our first lunch after I'd sat in, which I was in shock about because I'd never seen anything or heard anything like it.
Well, talk a little
And
bit about that too.
I was in shock. I mean, I at that time I was playing Six Flags over Georgia with my brother in front of rednecks who were coming off the log ride. So we had 20 minutes just to entertain rednecks and I mean I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but it was pretty much that. And so and then we had the radio show, which was a little more respectable. And then we played with Elise Witt and Small Family Orchestra, which was cool. But for me to get up there with y'all, we were doing Latin feels, we were doing all these things that I knew were on the banjo, but it was the first time my fingers had dug through those ideas. And so, and you got to understand at that time, this is before the internet, there were 4 progressive banjo players on the planet, and I knew them all. One of them's Bela Fleck, and he's 2 years older than me. I'm 65 now. He's about 67. So I'm just saying there wasn't any precedent for me to do this thing. And I just looked around, and then the next day he goes, let's go out and eat. I'll take you over to the house. And I said, okay. And we ate, and he said, stand over there. As we were leaving the restaurant, stand over there. And I stood over there, and he got on the sidewalk on one foot and then did the ballerina thing. And he froze as traffic was going by. And I just was like, okay, wow. So then he came walking over to me and he said, that's platorum. That is a reactive state of non-action.
Attention without reactive thought.
Attention without reactive thought. And I said, okay, I'll try to remember that. So then we go to the house, and he puts on those prime videos of him walking around
with Gazaway.
with Gazaway with a colander. And I told him not to call. Pike's Peak guy, Albert Pike. The phone rings. He goes, that Albert Pike? I told him not to call. And so I'm sitting there just thinking, okay, I've either run into a crazy guy or it's a cult. I don't really care. Somehow it's making sense. No, it really did.
Me too.
So I
And he
figured
is a crazy guy, and it is a cult.
it's like one of those movies it starts off and you almost turn it off and then you realize, wow, it's a genius movie. And so that really is how it started. And
you know what it kills me is I was at the American Roadhouse, and he would do something like, why is it so easy? I mean, he wouldn't say all this. He would say it by showing you. But what he was saying is that, why is it so easy to throw people off? So he could put a piece of Scotch tape, like right here, that's this long, just stick it there. And then we could just have a conversation, a whole restaurant where anybody that could see him, it would just throw their whole, he was like, that's him doing
Right.
Platorum on the sidewalk.
Well,
right.
Remember, then he asked us to take, one day he goes, Mosier, bring 15 pennies to the gig. And I said, okay. So I started getting rhythm sections, and I went through, or finally,
you were
somebody just came up to me and said, you got to stop. I said, well, stop what? You got to stop trying to find Oteil and Sipe. They're nowhere else on the planet. And, I just felt like demons were released. I was finally free. And it was just this horrible feeling. Every night I'd be getting up there going, God, what is going on? Why can't I find it? And then, people don't realize this is the chemistry, bass and drum thing maybe ever. So anyway,
you just like Forrest Gump your way.
Bruce heard about my struggles, and he goes, just go. Yeah, you gotta really it's okay. These are good drummers and bass players that you're playing with. Of course I did. I mean, I got Vic Stafford, and I ended up with Joseph Patrick Moore, and all these incredible players. But in the first years of Bluegrass, I thought I was going to lose my mind.
Well, just so you know, it happened in the reverse too, because I didn't know anything about, like, I didn't know that the Bluegrass tunes we're playing were actually old Delta blues tunes. Like, Fixing to Die is not a blue. But yeah, it's like, and then it would go the other way too. So the first Bluegrass players that I saw was the first banjo player I ever saw live was Scott Vestal. And I was like, it was Mark Mundy and Matt Mundy and Scott Vestal and Jeff Autry. And I was like,
I remember.
Dude, I was like, what the?
Remember you grabbed that guy's bass?
Happening here. So, and the very first mandolin player I ever played with was Matt freaking Mundy.
I know.
It's like, you go to driving school, and then they sit you behind the space shuttle and go, start her up, just like.
You basically realize that knowing Bruce is a cruel joke, because the connections that come your way are one-offs. And the situation they're one-offs. And
Ralph Towner.
Yeah. One-off.
One. There's no other Ralph Towners. None.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing. So, are you a snob? I mean,
yeah, I was. But here's my snobbery. My snobbery was too. Now my snobbery is only not only so much wider,
Right.
but it also is 100. It got turned on its
Right.
head, because what I missed in my type of snobbery was, if you didn't have a lot of chops, then I just thought you didn't have, like, a singer. I wouldn't even call Dylan a singer, or Mick Jagger. I was like, and for black people, that is not singing. So
Right.
I thought maybe it's just a black thing, but not really, because there's great opera singers and there's great, but
Right.
I didn't hear that I didn't get the folk music thing. I didn't get, and all the greats have it, no matter what style it is and no matter how much chops they have. Art Tatum has as much of that folk thing as he has the
Right.
chops. Same with Scott Vestal. Same with Charlie
Yeah.
Parker. So
Right.
just the classical. You hear the story. You hear it bleed. You hear it cry. I tell people, if your mom dies or your dog dies or whatever, you're not going to cry in any key.
Right.
It's
Right.
going to come out of you whether you like it or not.
Right.
However it comes out.
Right.
And that's what Bruce is trying to get us to do. Let it come out however it's going to come
And
out.
it's going to be you. It'll be really you.
Yeah, because it's your
Yeah.
mom or your dog.
Right.
Or he would say that. Didn't your dog die? Nothing happened to you? You play the same solo if your dog dies as if you've been and I got $1 million. That
Right.
really got me. I was like, oh shit, I would, because I'm just playing what I practiced.
Right.
But all those greats, and that's
Yeah.
when you taught me about bluegrass, I was like, I see it. It was like a religious experience. What's it like? It was a religious experience.
It's really the first time that version of white people were able to go out and really present music like jazz, where they're doing solos and they're doing parts. And so it is presented like straight ahead, but it's bluegrass. And,
Yeah.
of course, Bill Monroe took it so far, he wanted them to wear suits, and, he really was trying to put a face on it.
He wanted
So,
respect.
so
Yeah.
they didn't want to, so he didn't want the fruit jar drinkers and all those clown type white acts, he didn't want to be associated with them.
Yeah.
Those were hillbilly comedy acts to him, and he was trying
Yes.
to differentiate himself, from it.
He was saying, hey, this is an art. This is an
And
art.
now, thank
Respect it.
God, look what Billy's doing.
Man.
He's doing it higher than it's ever been done, and he's doing it with respect and showing everything, the family aspect. And I mean, it's wow, it's kind of breathtaking. And then there's this whole other world that we could go into, where I'm sitting playing bluegrass records, and the first time I ever heard the J word, Jerry, was on a phone of a redneck going, play some Jerry Garcia. So I said, okay, sir, I will. Next week, hey man, you didn't ever play Jerry Garcia? I said, okay, sir, I will. So I said, oh, I'm gonna find this guy. I never heard of a bluegrass guy named
Who's this Latin cat?
No, I know. So I go back there and I find Old and in the Way, and I put it the first time I put it on. Oh, this looks like an interesting tune. Land of the Navajo. And Peter Rowan's doing yodeling, and Indian Native American noises. And I'm just like going, wow. And this is long before Bruce, long before Blue Ground Undergrass. Vassar's on there, David Grisman, Peter Rowan. I just played with Peter this weekend. I mean, I end up becoming touched by a world of kind music and the Grateful Dead world. I get drawn in as another one of these people who is looking for a place to find the missing pieces. Yeah. And that's really what it is.
Or find the missing piece, PEACE.
Yeah. And I mean, it is, man. I could sit for 3 hours and talk about what I think it is, what I think it means, how it developed, all these things. But honestly, just the fact that me and you ended up in our own way involved in and around those worlds after Bruce uh, is just a blessing. It's a blessing to say the least. And I'm still playing and doing it and still love it, you know.
Well, I remember the day we were talking about being there, the movie, and all these concepts. Like for the listener, Bruce made a religion out of Zambi. So Zambi was Jesus, and he was a Zambiist. And so I was like, "How do you worship Zambi?" He goes, "Oh, to worship Zambi is to hate Zambi." I was like, he would just always do the opposite. And I was like, "What?" And he just because he laughs. Yeah, get rid of Zambi and have a bright tomorrow. I knew he was joking about that. It's funny, like
well, of course, we love the real Joe Zambi.
The real Joe Zambi.
He just texted me last night. Yeah, no, he did not hate him.
He loves Zambi, and
but all did.
And Zambi looks just like Chauncey Gardner.
Who's Peter Sellers?
I mean, dude, he looks. I sent it to someone. I told them the story, and I found the picture, and I sent it to them. They were like, wait a minute. And we had this long conversation about it. And that's when I said, I think I remember it's like coming to it like simultaneously. We were like, it's Adam before he ate the apple. It's Platorum. It's attention without reactive thought. It's just being there. Be here now. Just be. Don't do. Just be. Right? And I thought, wow, that thing, I realized that long before I ever heard the voices and they told me to study the Bible or go read it. They didn't say study it. They said just read it from beginning to end without your whole assumptions and motives that you're putting on it. Right?
Right.
Woo! Back then when I was like Adam before he ate the apple, I was like, it made sense. I didn't grow up in any religion. My dad was super hostile to it. My mom just threw out the Catholic Church because there ain't no hurt like church hurt, but she didn't throw God out. So I knew enough about it just from my Catholic family and about the Adam and Eve. And I went, wow, that's genius, and I was like, I was right about that's Zambi. And then it helped me understand, which is what prepared me for studying theology so much later,
Right.
I wish I had known more when we were living together, but it wasn't supposed to be then. All right, let me go because, it's already an hour. Do you have to go? Crap. We're going to have to do 2, man.
I would love to do another one.
We got to do more. I don't want you to.
I think now that we've done one, we might come up with some other stuff that, because what I don't know what you
have it. You have it.
He threw it in a trash can.
You have it, dude. That is like the Shroud of Turin. You have it.
I have the parts, have the neck. It's in pieces.
We need to get somebody to restore
Well,
it.
I talked to Hatcher about it. Don't put this on the internet, but I talked to Hatcher about it, and he and I was going to take it to him, but it sounded like it would be a lot, but I think somebody could put it back together.
They put old acoustic basses back together that are hundreds of years old.
This instrument changed my fucking life.
Dude.
It's been down here.
So good to see it.
I know, man. Look.
That thing changed my whole life.
No, look at this little pig.
What's that?
I know. I said, Bruce, what? You can't throw that away. I need the electronics. So we got the electronics out, and then I
remember the night it came apart. It literally, I swear to God.
Can you
the molecules?
Wasn't it the Cotton Club,
dude? I don't
It was
remember
the,
where it was, but I
it was
remember
the,
it's not
it
like
exploded.
nothing fell on it. It didn't
No,
drop.
it
It
exploded.
just all of a sudden just went.
Because
It
I
just
wasn't
came
playing with
apart.
y'all. I wasn't playing then. I was in the audience, and I looked and I saw it go like this. And then you know what stopped them? The parts from flying?
The strings. The
So he
strings held
grabbed
it
the
together.
strings and he threw them in a trash can. And I was horrified because it actually hurt my feelings.
Dude,
And
that instrument, I can hear it like a ghost. That's the one. I saw as soon as I saw it, man.
it's the original. That's what
The
he was playing the
Chazoid.
night I met him.
The Chaz. That's what he was playing the night I met him.
That's the real one. That's the John D. Loudermilk.
Dude, when he put the slide on that thing.
Is there anything that
my
rocks
God.
harder? Have you ever heard
Dude,
anybody rock harder?
he would open the portal and all the spirits would fly out and swirl around the room.
I got that.
You could damn near see them.
Holy
crap. Okay,
Yeah.
when we come back next time, we got to talk about pro wrestling. We got to talk about Sun Ra.
Pro wrestling's here, and it's going to be our government. Pro wrestling.
Oh, it has been for a long time.
Yeah.
It has been for a long time. He told me that back when I was 24 or 26. Took me till like a few years ago to get into it. We got to talk about. I want to unpack Platorum a little bit more, and I want to talk about the music biz.
Okay.
And probably some other things. But thank you for the Cow Killer. Thank you for my new band name, The Missing Piece, PEACE. Thank you for. So I know we were just rambling all over the place, but we got to do this again, man, because all this stuff is so relevant for right now, like more than ever before. Just about intention and everything, man. Everything.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we're here all these years later to reminisce and really realize how incredibly deep it was.
How blessed we are, man.
Yeah.
We're really blessed.
Like if a cult just leaves you way more grateful, it's a good cult.
And we didn't have to drink anything.
No, I never. To people are like, "What was it like to trip with the Colonel?" I'm like, "With Brucifer? No, never.
No,
do that, you know." But
he said he'd be afraid he'd put on a suit and go get a straight job if he did acid.
Man, one time I was playing this black club. I was playing drums, and Bruce called it black secretary music. Which was his term for smooth jazz. Going to play that black secretary music. So he comes out. Oh God, I gotta tell the story when we come back too about what was it? WRFG, Sun Ra at WRFG. That's where you did Born in the Barn, right?
Been dead.
With Bomani Bakari. I'll never forget. His name is like a Black Power radio station. Oh, that was the dude. Anyway, he comes to this club. It used to be where Walter Mitty's was. I don't remember the name they changed it to, but everybody's wearing a suit and, or dressed nicely, like business casual, maybe. It's happy hour. Everybody's getting off work. We're playing Anita Baker and whatever, like. And Bruce comes to the club, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be good." He sits at the bar, his legs shaking the whole time. He doesn't drink anything because he doesn't drink, right? So he proceeded to guess like 5 people at the bar's birthday. All the musicians pull up. He guessed all their birthdays. They were like, "What's going on?" And then. The only time I ever saw him do it, he took a sip of a beer.
Really? I never saw that.
I couldn't believe it. I think he did it just to mess with me. I know he did it just to mess with me. So I'll drink one of those. I was like, no, you won't. You've never drank.
You're not
Stop
gonna
it.
drink it.
And you don't have to do it to prove anything to me. Like, I don't have a need for you to drink or smoke weed or anything. Like,
Right.
dude, he got thrown. It was so funny. All of a sudden, his energy just and he bolted. He didn't drink the whole beer. I think he just took 1-2 sips max. But you're talking about someone who's totally clean. And all of a sudden, his energy, I think all of a sudden he was going to levitate. He was like, I better get out of here before I start levitating.
His alien brain couldn't.
Yeah, he was going to show more than.
Right.
Yeah. He couldn't conceal it. I was just like, uh-oh.
Like Men in Black.
Yeah, like all of a sudden. I laughed so hard. I was like, well, he tried. But,
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, man, I know I got to let you go. You got stuff to do. Thank you so much for this hour. And you have to come back because I got all the rest of these things.
Okay. I'd love to, man.
Bless you, brother.
I bless you too. I really appreciate it, Oteil. I love you.
And everybody, I'm going to put this link to his interview with the Colonel. Go see the movie. Colonel Bruce Hampton, basically Frightened, the musical madness of Colonel Bruce Hampton, right? Yeah. And you got to see this interview that the Reverend Jeff Mosier does with him. It's my favorite. I'll just say that. Love you, man. Peace, brother.
Love you too. Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.